Hey, what's up everyone? It's Dustmos, and today I'm here with the Soyuz Launcher Deluxe. So the Soyuz Launcher Deluxe is a two-channel version of the original Soyuz launcher, which was and is still a microphone preamp, but this version adds a saturation mode, which is what we're focusing on today. Saturation mode allows you to run line level signals through the launcher and experiment with saturation and drive and boost and all of that good stuff, going through all of the analog goodness that's inside. There's multiple transformers and all that, keeping things really interesting. I also want to thank Soyuz for sending this out for me to demo on the channel. I really appreciate that. They did send it to me, but this is an honest, unbiased opinion because that's how I like to do things here. So the way I'm going to be demoing this today is going to be a little bit different than normal. What I'm going to do is actually load full tracks from my album Polychrome, available now on Bandcamp for free if you want it, or you can stream it on Apple Music, all that good stuff, Spotify, all the major services, you can find it. Link in the description. But I'm starting with the full tracks that are going to come off of the Octatrack as the player, essentially, running through the Launcher Deluxe and then into my Apollo Twin interface. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm trying to manage different levels of input gain and the output volume of the Octatrack, and just try to kind of see what kind of flavors I can get out of this thing. Because there are no buttons and controls to speak of, I'm skipping that normal section I usually put in my full-length demos and reviews. But instead, I'll just kind of tell you a little bit about what we've got going on. On the input side, we've got two combi jacks. They can accept XLRs or 1/4 inch going in. And then out, we've got two really hardy, really robust XLR jacks. If you flip it over here on the bottom, you've got an input, output labeling, but then you can see saturate mode or launcher mode selectable on these little switches. And you can flip them between the two different modes, just depending on how you want to use this. If you want to use it for mics and all that kind of stuff, or if you want to use it in line in, there's different ways you can go about this. And you can explore adding phantom power to it, obviously being careful so you don't kind of mess up any of your gear, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of different ways that you can route this, a lot of different ways to implement it, and just kind of experiment and see what your results are. But that's pretty much the gist of the Soyuz Launcher Deluxe. Let's get it hooked up and hear how it sounds. Okay, so as you can tell, I've got the Launcher Deluxe here, my Apollo Twin, and the Octatrack Mark II. I'm coming out of the Octatrack, going into the Launcher Deluxe, and then into the Apollo Twin, and I'm using XLR connectors to go into the mic pre's on the Apollo Twin. But as you can see, coming out 1/4 inch going out of the Octatrack into the Launcher Deluxe. The way I'm going to do this is going to be a little different because there is no bypass switch or anything like that on the Soyuz. So I'm going to just play the tracks. I have 4 tracks that are from my album Polychrome that came out a couple years ago now. And I'm going to play them through and hear how they sound with this. But then I'm going to cut in between to what's happening here live and the clean recording that is my master file, so you can hear the difference between the two. I'm going to put some graphics on the screen that will show whether or not you're hearing the Launcher Deluxe version or just the clean master file. But one thing we're going to play with is the level coming out of the Octatrack, so what's going into the Launcher Deluxe, and then the preamp level that is being controlled on the Apollo Twin. So we can drive this a little harder and do all that kind of stuff. And I'll make note, that's what I wanted you to be able to see the level here of gain on the preamp and the levels here. So to go ahead and start, I'm going to get out of this mix mode here so I can trigger my first song. So here we go. This one's called Color Theory.
Different colors.
And I'm not going to talk over it. I'm just going to control all of the stuff here and try to put some graphics on the screen. I'm trying not to clip in the inputs. And there we go. That was test track 1. Let's go into test track 2 now. Here we go. Constantly just kind of watching the levels. This song is called Remember. There's also a pad. I'm going to do that and then crank it a little bit. Took the pad off. All right, that was my second track. Let's jump into the third now. Straight away, we're a little crunchy on this one. Fun fact, that da-da-da is me hitting my flower pot with a mallet. Really chews up the bass on this one. That song was called Sleeper. Now we're moving on to the last one called Money. And there we go. Those 4 of my tracks, full tracks running through the Soyuz Launcher Deluxe, and hopefully you're able to hear what this thing was doing by bypassing, jumping between. Clearly, also there's a lot at play here. The tracks are playing off of the Octatrack, so that's gonna maybe do something. Then they're gonna go into the Launcher Deluxe, and then it goes into the Apollo Twin. I have no effects on anywhere in the chain. I actually bypassed my mixer, so it's coming out of the interface too, just to make sure there's no extra color coming from that. But there's also variables in how you set this up. I noticed between using different sets of cables, it kind of changed a little bit. And obviously, how much gain you push into this. And then, if you like starve it versus if you really overdrive it, there can be some variation. So that's why I try to kind of move around the levels and stuff in my demo. I'm trying to give you the best approximation I can of what this thing can do. But there we go. That is 4 different source tracks coming out of the Octatrack into the Soyuz Launcher Deluxe, recorded through the Apollo Twin. So the Launcher Deluxe is an interesting proposition. It's first and foremost a mic, pre and booster, but it also is a saturation device, and this one, being that it has 2 channels, can operate in stereo or have 2 sort of separate ones where you set the settings, whether it's a launcher or saturate mode, on either one independently, and that's really cool. In my demo, I think you could probably hear that it definitely did some boosting, although I tried to even the levels out so there wouldn't be a bias to one of them sounding better than the other just because it was louder. So most of the time I tried to match them, but you could tell that there was definitely a difference, and the results changed based on how I had it set up. I think that's one of the things with this box is you can set it up so many different ways, whether you're running it with phantom power, without, running it in launcher mode or saturate mode, the gain levels, like how hard you push into this box, and how much you boost its output or pad it, for example. And I think this is definitely one of those devices where if you kind of know you need it or have a good use case for it, maybe you have microphones and you also want to saturate line level devices, and you have a, kind of a outfitted, kitted out studio, then this would probably slot right in with your workflow. But then there's also people out there who maybe, you look at this, you hear the difference that it makes, and maybe it's only that extra 1 or 2%, and maybe it's not for you. But that's something that I think you have to kind of come to that conclusion for yourself. It's probably pretty immediate either way. I will say I noticed the sound kind of changed based on how I had it set up. Different cables reacted differently. All kinds of different things kind of changed based on the way you're using this. And because there are no knobs, not a lot of options, clearly, there's not a lot to set up on the box itself. You basically just run through it, and if you like those results, then you're in business. And if you don't, then, you don't. It's definitely a set it and forget it kind of thing. I think once you have it in your signal chain, you may find it indispensable. In my tests, I noticed a couple different things. I found that if I had it set into one of the modes and ran it in the line inputs instead of the mic inputs, I found I could actually sort of reduce a lot of the low end, but then I also found other times where it actually kind of made stuff sound a little bit richer and a little fuller. But then I think what maybe is most evident in the demo that I did is that you almost hear a little bit more of like a breathiness, like a top end kind of thing that pops out when you're running through this. And it's interesting because I had all those tracks, they were mastered and they sounded good to me. And then I ran it through this and I found that there was a little bit more air, a little bit more openness that this provided. And that was a surprise. I also noticed that you could overdrive it and get distortion out of it and kind of collapse the sound waves, and that was interesting. Probably not for me with this box, but I would have to say that another interesting result was that I noticed on my my meters as I was jumping between the A and B that when it was run through this, there was a lot more almost like dynamics between like the peaks and the troughs. than my already mastered tracks. And I thought that was kind of an interesting result. And I don't know if that's why it sounds like it has a little bit more air, a little bit more like top end sparkle. Again, very minor. And if you're listening on headphones that aren't super great, or studio monitors that, you know, aren't really going to reveal that, you may not hear it, especially even maybe with the YouTube compression, there might not be a huge change. But if you listen carefully, I feel like you'll definitely hear that in my demo. So is this for you? That's for you to decide. You know, I can't say for sure. I do think this is something that the studio folks are going to be into. The people who are, you know, working with mics a lot, running, you know, stems and different tracks and processing things. And it's just another stop in the signal chain to add a little something, like I said, that extra like 1 or 2% kind of thing. I mean, you know, maybe this is exactly something that you're looking for, and is a little bit of a Swiss Army knife in your world. But if you're a tinkerer, you know, if you like knobs and like lots of tone controls and drive amounts, screens, presets, you know, you're not going to get that here. But I will say that without that, it's sort of kind of nice because you can just, like I said, set it and forget it, and it can just exist as part of your audio processing chain. One thing for sure is it's built like a freaking tank. It's like something from a completely different era of decades past. Crazy, robust build, and very impressive. And I really appreciate that attention to just the craftsmanship and build quality. Anyway, that's going to be it from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.